Hello, welcome back to the Your Everyday Strength podcast. My name is Josh Sternberg. And if you're just joining us here for the very first time, welcome. Thank you for being here. If you are returning, you already know the fucking drill. Thank you so much for coming back. I appreciate you. And I'm very excited to be talking to you today. Now, in all honesty, today's just a really fucking good day. I don't know what it is. I woke up this morning, sun was shining, blue skies, one of the most beautiful sunrises I've seen recently. You know, we've had some pretty shit weather here on the Goldie. It's been a little bit hit and miss. So to wake up this morning, get down to the beach, go for a stroll, it just felt fucking nice. And I just feel like it sets the tone. There's a reason I make an effort to go to the beach every single day, and that's because it sets the tone for the day better than anything else I could ever think of. Got me home. I fucking ripped through work already. I've been absolutely cranking. And here we are, ready to rip into another podcast. Now, today's episode is probably going to be one of the most action-packed. It's going to have the most takeaways from it, I think. And that is on everyone's favorite topic, which is fat loss. Now, a few episodes back, I did a bit of a talk on the old summertime shred. And I briefly mentioned the 4 pillars guide that I essentially released when discussing what I did to lose 15 kilos in 12 weeks about 12 months ago. Now, caveat to that is, one, I had the 15 kilos to lose. So I was able to lose a higher percentage of my weight because I had it there to lose. Not everybody's going to lose 15 kilos in 12 weeks. Some people don't even have 15 kilos to lose at all, let alone in 12 weeks. So that's very important to note before we get ripped into this one. But today I was having a bit of a think at the start of the week, and I was having a discussion with someone, and we were talking about, what episode I'm going to do this week, what the topic's going to be, all the rest of it. And Jess goes, well, why don't you just expand on the 4 pillars one? Actually give some actionable steps that people can take home, implement straight away, and use it to help them lose weight. And I was like, you know what? Fucking that's it. Done. Let's go get that episode done. Provide as much value to everybody out there who continues to listen, continues to show up. And if you have no goal around weight loss or fat loss or whatever the case might be, then this episode may not be as much use to you, but you might learn a thing or two anyway about the whole process and a little bit more of the details as to why and how I structure things the way I do. Because at the end of the day, everybody wants a shortcut. And the truth is, fat loss isn't complicated. It's just fucking uncomfortable. Like, it's not fun to be hungry. Nobody likes being hungry. Nobody likes being a little bit low of energy. Nobody likes being tired. Fat loss is actually really fucking easy. And we've heard it time and time and time again. Calorie fucking deficit. You need to eat less than you burn. Blah, 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 blah. We all know the fucking drill. We all know the slogans. We've heard it all before. Everybody's looking for the secret sauce, that secret little fucking ingredient that's like, nah, this is the secret. Now, unless you're going to go and run Clen or Tren or something like that, they are actually probably the secret. However, for 99.99% of people, that is not the solution. The solution is going to be how to create a sustainable fat loss protocol that ensures you can lose fat, retain as much energy as possible, retain as much performance as possible, and not lose your fucking mind in the process. So, let's fucking go. We're going to rip straight in, starting us off. Pillar 1. Structured training. Now, you would think that when we're discussing fat loss, the first pillar would be nutrition. And you could probably argue that to be correct. This is not necessarily done in any particular order, but I do find that one of the first things people do when they enter a fat loss phase is they throw all of the principles out of the window that have actually helped them get to that point in time. Or if you're just starting a fat loss phase or any form of training for the first time at all, then maybe you haven't actually had the chance to actually, implement some of these strategies before. First things first, structured training. Basically, what we're looking for here is discipline over motivation, especially when we enter a fat loss phase. We are going to not have as much motivation. It's going to be a little bit shit, especially on the days you're tired, especially on the days you're feeling a little bit sluggish, you're a little bit just a little bit behind the eight ball, and you can't really be fucked. So with that, the biggest thing that helped me with my weight loss, my fat loss, etc., was just following a structured training plan, doing the same shit week in, week out. Now, I've spoken about it so many fucking times that consistency is key. Consistency is paramount to everything that we do within our training. That means consistency with training. We need to be able to do the same exercises week in, week out, aiming to progress them as best as we can. A little bit harder in a fat loss phase, but I'll get to that in a moment, to ensure that we actually have consistent, data, consistent things that we're doing. If one week you do 2 sessions, they're full body, you do 5 hit like cardio sessions, you do 3,000 steps every day, and then the next week you do fucking 13,000 steps, you do 5 sessions. It's any wonder your weight fluctuations are going to be through the fucking roof. If we want to see consistency within your data, within your fat loss, within your weight loss, if we want to make it as predictable as possible, you need consistency within your training. It can be super, super straightforward. 3 to 5 days. Generally speaking, the most training days I give somebody specifically within a gym is 4. 3 to 5 days of training per week. Structure this to ensure that you are actually having strength as the foundation. From there, you can start to move down into isolation exercises. It's not too dissimilar to a normal structured training program. What I mean by that, start with your bigger compound movements, move your way down the list. As fatigue increases through the session, your output is going to go down. So as we move down and move down further into things like isolation-based exercises, so think if we're going to look at a leg day, we're starting off with either a squat, an RDL, a deadlift, something similar to that. And our last exercise can be a lying hamstring curl or a leg extension or a calf raise or something. Whatever you want to do, realistically, all you need to do is be able to pick like fucking 5 to maybe 8 exercises, 8 at most some days, like not including prep drills or anything like that you can do every single week that allows you to get them done in the time frame that you have available to you, that you can try and progress every single week. We obviously want to focus on progressive overload. You will not lose strength as much as you think you will if you are consistent. I'm going to put that out there right now. The amount of times I've seen people, they enter a fucking diet, they enter a cut, and within like 2 weeks, they're like, oh, my strength is tanked. No, it fucking hasn't. No, it hasn't. Unless you have absolutely gone and obliterated your calories, your strength has not tanked. It's all mental. You're taking the fucking piss. Top end strength, potentially. Overall movement-based strength, no. When I did my cut, I actually got stronger in quite a lot of my movements over the 15 weeks, 12 weeks, 15 kilos. The point is, you're not going to just get weak straight away. Pressing strength will be affected, yes. Top end strength will be affected, yes. But not to the effect that you probably perceive it to be. So stop telling yourself you're going to get weaker. Just focus on the key principles and get it done. Now, tracking your training, it's the same as anything. Track your training so you understand exactly what you've done week 1 to week 2 to week 3 to week 4 to ensure that it is actually progressing forward. Super straightforward, pretty easy. If you don't have an app, hit me up. We can work it out. Avoid junk volume. Don't just do shit for the sake of doing shit. Don't sit there and go, oh, I'm going to burn more calories, so I'm going to do drop sets and fucking cluster sets and this and that. Don't do that. You're just increasing fatigue without increasing stimulus, and you're going to fucking look like a bit of a wet noodle at the end of it. With that, a lot of people, when they're entering a fat loss phase, they will just train to sweat, not improve. They're not really following the principles of training. They're not aiming to improve. They're not aiming to increase their weight. They're not aiming to increase progressive overload, whatever the case might be. They're just like, oh, well, I need to sweat more. I need to be sorer because that's what I need to do to lose weight. And that's just not the case at the end of the day. So stop that. Now, cardio can be very different for everybody. Realistically speaking, we're probably looking somewhere between 3 to 5 sessions per week, and that is done at varying heart rate zones. So it's not enough to just train, get on a treadmill and just do nothing but zone 2. If you're doing no cardio and you just go and do 5 sessions of zone 2 to zone 3, absolutely, that's going to help. Now, zone 2 is what is quoted as our fat loss sort of bottom end area. So we're going to be predominantly burning fat within that. Zone 3 is where we're going to be increasing a little bit more of the aerobic conditioning. And then we continue to progress up. Zone 5 is more of the anaerobic system. So it is more of our anaerobic glycolytic, i.e. short, sharp, fast bursts that are designed to burn predominantly rates within that fuel range. But there's going to be little intersections between all of them throughout. But zone 2 is what would be quote unquote, most people would see it as steady state. They'll see it as LISS, which is low intensity steady state. Anything along those lines, that's our fat burning. That is our bread and butter when in a deficit, or realistically, any time of the year. And steps. There's no magic number. It's not 10,000. If anybody wants to know why 10,000 steps was set as the benchmark, it was because a pedometer company gave away pedometers in a cereal box. They set a challenge to get people to do 10,000 steps a day. They basically did this because they wanted people to buy their pedometer so that they were actually going to try and get the 10,000 steps. Realistically speaking, I can't remember the number off the top of my head, but it's something fucking stupid. It's like 6,768 or some shit is the quote unquote number that most people should be doing daily. If you're somebody who works in an office and you do fuck all movement and you're getting like 2,000 to 4,000 steps, we need to bump that up. Those are rookie numbers. Increase it by 2,000. No matter what steps you're doing at this point in time, aim to increase them by 2,000. That's it. If you're doing 6,000, go to 8. If you're doing 8, go to 10. If you're doing 10, go to 12. Realistically, to start off with, you probably don't need to be doing any more than about 12,000 steps unless you're somebody who is stupidly fucking active. And then if that is the case, we can utilize other methods to drive a deficit rather than just have you go and do a stupid amount of steps per day, which is for 99% of people, again, it's just not feasible. For, busy parents or anything like that are working or they have a job to go to and they've got kids to run around and all of that, assigning them a step target of like 12 to 15,000 is just fucking unreasonable. Like it just is. I have probably more time in a day to be able to get up and go for a walk than most people do. And I still struggle to get 12,000 some days. And that's including days where I'll get up. The first thing I do is go for a 3-kilometer walk. I'll then go for another 2 to 4K walk in the afternoon with Sammy. I will train at the gym. I'll walk around just in general. And some days I'm still not quite hitting that 12,000 to the point where I'm walking around in my fucking lounge room or the landing above, like outside my bedroom to get my steps in. So if somebody assigns you a step target of like 15,000, tell them to fuck off. Tell them to jog on. It's just dumb. There's other methods that we can implement that will actually help you to lose weight without having to do a stupid amount of steps. The other thing too, I'm going to pop in a little side note here. Now, if we're looking at TDE, total daily energy expenditure, we have exercise activity thermogenesis, EAT. We have non-exercise activity thermogenesis, NEAT. If you are assigned a step target, it is not NEAT. That is an exercise. NEAT is if you park your car further away from the shops and walk. If you walk around, you get up and go for a walk after lunch to help with digestion. If you do anything along those lines, that is classified as NEAT. As soon as you start assigning step targets and being like, you need to go get 12,000 steps of NEAT, that's not NEAT. That is a fucking exercise. You have been assigned an exercise. Sorry, frustrates me when people say that. It's a silly thing to say. But anyway, now with that, the easiest little actionable takeaway that you can implement right now is create a 12-week program. Lay it out, 12 weeks. That can be 3 4-week blocks. Ensure you have 3 to 5 days of strength training within a gym per week. add 3 to 5 sessions of cardio per week. Now, this can be done, generally speaking, if you have to do it in the same session as which you were at the gym, I would put it after you've done your main work. So don't go in and do your cardio first and then train. You will be a little bit depleted of energy. It will potentially take away some of the glycogen or carbs that we're going to be utilizing as energy for the training session, and it might make you a little bit more fatigued. Do it after the session if you have to. Idealistically, if you can separate the time frame that you do them, that's best. But realistically, who the fuck has time for that? I don't have time to go to the gym multiple times a day. So what I'll do, and I'm planning to do it today, is I'm going to train upper body. I'll then go walk, get straight on the treadmill, do my 20 minutes of zone 2, and I get out of there. Done. Simples. Make it easy. Remove the fucking any of the little hesitancies that you have. Remove any of the things that might potentially impact you not getting it done. Perfect. Done. Now, pillar 2 should go without saying, structured nutrition. Nutrition is going to be the main driving factor of pretty much everything that we're going to be doing within our deficit. As we know, we need to burn more than we consume. Right. There is that many fucking calculators online. Go and use any of them. Just find one and use it. What I'll generally do when I have clients starting with me who are doing nutrition is I will get them to send me either a specific, if they're tracking, or a rough guide of what they have been eating consistently for the last week or two. From there, I'll calculate the calories that they're having or currently consuming. I will then reduce 5 to 10% from that to calculate where I believe they're probably, where they need to be to start their deficit. And I will assign a certain amount of metrics as a distribution from proteins, fats, carbs, etc., which I'll run through in a moment, to then create their deficit. Anybody who says to you, this number is the perfect deficit, you are going to lose X amount on this, that doesn't have a fuck ton of data from you, is lying. They're a charlatan. They are just trying to take your money. For the first 2 weeks, I will always use them as an assessment period. We will assess consistency. We will assess rate of loss, or if the person's goal is to gain, we will assess rate of gain. We will assess all of it. From there is when we can start to make more educated adjustments. Finding a random number online and being like, this has to be in a deficit, doesn't necessarily mean it will be. There's a few different things that you need to actually prioritize first. Now, when we're looking at of our macronutrients, so proteins, fats, carbs, what I like to do, and this is me personally, it's not the same for everyone, I have 2 different assignments of calories. I will have a training day, especially if somebody's in a deficit. I will have a training day and I will have a rest day. On the training day, I will predominantly have a higher carb, slightly higher protein intake. On a rest day, I will have a lower carb, more medium protein, and a higher fat intake. The rest day calories will be somewhere within the ballpark of 15 to 25% less than their training day calories. Can be a little bit more, can be a little bit less. It depends upon the person, their daily movement, etc. Now, starting with protein, we're going to be looking for somewhere. Now, I know that the general recommendation is 1.7 to 2.2 grams per kilo of body weight. I like to operate somewhere within the 2 to 2.5 grams per kilo. Now, I have ran as high as 3.5 times body weight for protein and had incredible fucking results. My body responded really well to it. Now, not everybody's is going to respond well to that. It also depends on the style of training that you're doing at the time. And there's a couple of other factors like supplementation and things as well that can have an effect on this. But somewhere within the ballpark of 2 to 2.5. On a training day, I will look somewhere within the realm of 2.2 to 2.5 grams per kilo of body weight. On a rest day, I will look for somewhere within the realm of about 2 to 2.2 grams of per kilo of body weight. Perfect. Fats. On a training day, I will have 20 to 25% of their total caloric intake assigned to fats. And on a rest day, it will be somewhere between 25 to 40% of their calories will be assigned to fats. Now, it is very, very important to note that this is predominantly and should predominantly be made up of poly and monounsaturated fats. These are the fat sources that actually help with hormone transportation. These are the fat sources that help with satiety. And these are the fat sources that are actually going to be conducive of health effects long term and keeping us feeling fuller, healthier, and with better health metrics. Do not eat fuck tons of saturated fat. It's not great for us. It's going to filter out a hell of a lot quicker, and it's going to actually leave you hungrier after you consume it. From there, whatever is left is going to go to carbohydrates. Now, as I said, on a training day, this is going to be higher. On a non-training day, this is going to be a little bit lower. Again, dependent upon the activity that the person does, whether they're somebody who does a little bit more of like a hybrid style of training, they might have higher carbohydrates than somebody who is on just, 3 full body sessions in the gym per week, because we need to look at the substrates that are predominant within our heart rate zones and what we're actually going to be utilizing for fuel. Something I was taught by one of my previous coaches last year, a very, very fucking intelligent man who works with more people than I could ever even imagine, is for strength training and powerlifting, we don't need as much carbs as people think we do. We actually probably need a higher fat intake diet, because that is the most dominant fuel source we're using. If your heart rate isn't really climbing above like 150 that much, like if you're not getting up into like zone 4 and 5 often, you're not actually utilizing carbs as an energy source as much as you think you are. You're predominantly utilizing fat, especially in those long drawn out fucking sessions that go for like 2-3 hours. I can tell you right now, you're not burning as many carbs as you think you are. At first, I was hesitant when he changed it all. I used to run stupidly high carbs, fuck all fats. He flipped the script. I went to having the highest fat intake diet I'd ever been on. Within about 2 weeks, I felt fucking amazing. I felt the best I'd ever felt. I felt fueled through sessions. I felt good through sessions. I felt good throughout the day. I've had consistent energy. I had consistent focus. I wasn't having all these peaks and troughs that come from like loading up on sugar and having it come and crash and all the other shit that goes along with it. I felt fucking amazing, and I've seen some really good results with my clients as a result of that. Now, from there, those are our three macronutrients. Next up, we have fiber. Now, this needs to be a mix of soluble and insoluble fiber. Think fruits and veg and grains and nuts and seeds and things like that. We're looking for around 15 to 18 grams per 1,000 kilocalories. So if you're somebody who's on 3,000 calories, you can have anywhere between 45 grams to 53 grams of fiber per day. And as I said, it needs to be made up between insoluble and soluble fiber to help with digestion, to help creating more of a stool rather than just having it be fucking fluid coming out the butt. But yeah, hydration, sodium, potassium, electrolyte balance. It does influence your training output. It also influences a hell of a range of different systems as well. What I like to do is 80 milligrams, so potassium, a set at 80 milligrams per kilo of body weight. I make 50% of that their sodium intake. So it's a 2-to-1 ratio potassium to sodium. This is slightly different to maybe some of the literature that's out there. However, based upon more recent literature, based upon anecdotal evidence, based upon seeing it used by people who are a lot smarter than me, with a hell of a lot larger pool of people that they can use to track this on, this is pretty fucking bang on. So if you're a 100 kilo human being, you're going to have 8,000 milligrams of potassium, 4,000 milligrams of sodium per day. If you have a higher sweat rate, or if you work in a job that involves you being outdoors, you sweat a bit more, you're a sweaty person, whatever the case might be, you can potentially look to increase your sodium a little bit to ensure that we're actually getting an adequate balance. The other thing to just keep a mind or like an eye on is your blood pressure, because if you increase sodium too much, you will have blood pressure problems. Likewise, if you do have too much potassium without balancing it with sodium, you can have issues as well. It is important to note that no matter which way you look at things, too much of anything is generally never a good thing. Water's great until you drown. From there, as I said, you're going to be tracking your data for 2 weeks. Scale weight every morning. Weigh yourself. Fasted. Get up. Go to the toilet. Stand straight on the scale, naked if you can, or in as minimal clothing as possible. Track it as many days per week as you can. Add it up. Divide it by however many days you've weighed yourself. That's your average for the week. Do the same thing the next week. Take photos on the same day, idealistically around the same time, in the same setting. So if you wake up Monday morning, get up, go to the toilet, do your thing, go take your photos, go about your day. That's how I try and set my day up, so that the photos are as consistent as possible. This then allows us to have a look at something that's a little bit more subjective. Now, scale weight can obviously fluctuate day to day. If you're consistent with your food every single day, you're eating the same thing, it shouldn't have too many fluctuations. If you're fluctuating crazily, besides being a female, besides cycle things, there's probably some form of like inconsistency within your food or your sleep or whatever the case might be. Now, remembering that nutrition is just structure, it's not restriction. You structuring your nutrition, it helps you to ensure that you're on track towards your goals of losing fat. We want to be making sure that we're tracking for awareness. So what we can do that's going to be best to do this is track 2 to 3 days in advance. What I'll generally do is I will track my training days and I will track my non-training days. And then I'll just eat the same shit on those days. For me at the moment, I've got 4 gym sessions. So I've got what I would call 4 training days. I then have 3 technical non-training days. On 2 of those non-training days, one of the days is the day I do sprinting, and the other day is the day that I do running. The reason I classify these as non-training days is because my sprinting day takes me about 30 minutes. And all in all, I'm probably doing 13 maximal efforts that last around 10 seconds or less per one. So it's not a whole lot of work. It's about 2 minutes of work total in that 30-minute session, like real hard intensity work. So I don't classify that as training. I don't need to go and fuel the fuck up like an athlete. And at the moment, my Thursday run, it goes for a maximum of 3Ks. I'm running it in 15 minutes or less. I don't need to go and fuel and carb the fuck up for 15 minutes of running, and neither do you. Now, if you're going to go and run 10Ks or 15Ks or 20Ks, you absolutely should take that into account and fuel accordingly. But if you are somebody who is just starting your running journey and you are quite literally going for 1, 2, 3, even maybe 4Ks, anything under like 25 to 30 minutes, you don't need to fuel up. You don't. Stop lying to yourself. Okay? Done. Thank you. Sick of seeing people being like, oh man, I really have to carb load. And then they go for a fucking 16-minute run. Brother. Reality check. Anyways, moving on. Part 3, pillar 3. Stress mitigation. Because fat loss isn't just physical. It's hormonal and it's emotional. People get emotional when they're hungry. I get emotional when I'm hungry. Hormones can fluctuate. It happens, especially if you're a female. Now, there's 2 stories I can utilize within this. When I first started my journey of cutting weight, I remember basically telling anybody that as soon as I get below 100 kilos, it's classified as victim weight. And I kept telling myself this and kept telling myself this and kept telling myself this. And for weeks, my weight loss stalled at 100 kilos. I couldn't get below it. I was decreasing calories. I was increasing output. I was doing all of it. And my weight wouldn't drop. As soon as I stopped telling myself the narrative that under 100 kilos was victim weight, I've now decided that under 90 kilos is victim weight. Sorry if you're under 90 kilos as a male. But I dropped it. I dropped like 3 kilos in a week and a half. So some of the narratives that we tell ourselves are really crucial within this as well. It can be emotional. Tying emotion and feelings to food, it happens. It really does. And I'm not saying that it's an easy thing to not do. And I have total respect and understanding for people who do struggle with this aspect of food from an emotional perspective, especially people who may have had eating disorders or anything like that in the past. Like, don't get me wrong, this is not targeted at you, but it can absolutely be an emotional thing for a lot of people. And being mindful of that and being really gentle on yourself to ensure that you can make fat loss as sustainable as possible is the key to getting the results you want without driving yourself into a mental hole. Now, including things like just walking in nature, journaling, meditation, any of these sort of like stress mitigation strategies, going for a swim at the beach, etc., can really help quite a lot when it comes to fat loss. Inflammation within our body also increases as our training progresses. So as we need to, we can run deloads, which will help reduce the inflammation, which again will help increase the weight with which we're losing to ensure that we're continuing on track. You can start to see some data and consistencies around like, okay, cool, I'm pushing. This is week 5, 6 of pushing training quite hard. Okay, body weight is stalled a little bit, which is telling, fatigue's a little bit higher. Sleep maybe not as great. Take a bit of a deload week, and then all of a sudden weight drops, sleep's better, stress is better, all of the rest of it, it helps as a byproduct. So we need to understand that implementing stress strategies is crucial to fat loss, and it helps you to keep an even keel mentally, emotionally, which will then in turn help physically. You can run something along the lines of when you get up in the morning, you can do a little bit of breath work and a walk before you get on your phone. Don't reach for your phone first thing in the morning. Don't get inundated with what's happening on Instagram or social media first thing in the morning. Start your day off on a clean slate and then go from there. If you want to, around midday, if you're feeling a little bit stressed, overwhelmed, etc., you can either run a little bit of a journal, some deep breaths, a short grounding ritual. Like, there's so many different strategies you can implement that may help you. One of my favorite stress mitigation strategies that's not something to do with like journaling, meditation, etc., is playing Xbox. Sitting down and doing or building Lego, like sitting down and doing a task that involves nothing to do with anything else in my life, is one of the biggest stress releases for me, and I fucking love it. From there, you can't outtrain a stressed nervous system. The age-old, you can't outtrain a bad diet is true. You cannot outtrain a stressed nervous system. If you're just so full of fucking stress, cortisol's through the roof, your body's going to sit there and go, fuck this, we are not dropping weight because we are going to be stressed as all fuck. Losing weight is a stressor on your body. It goes in the exact same basket as pretty much every other stressor that goes in there, and it does have an effect across all systems. Biggest thing that I could suggest is, if you're starting out and you're a little bit new to some of this stuff, is just pick one stress reduction strategy that you think might help you best and implement it for 14 days. That could be a walk outside in nature at lunchtime if you get an opportunity. That could be, what I do, starting my day down the beach. That could be finishing your day down the beach. That could be journaling. Just, use the same prompts. Hit up ChatGPT. Hey, can you give me 2 prompts that will help me to reduce stress every single day? Something short, sharp, and succinct. Bang. Every single day. Just spend 5-10 minutes writing those out. I guarantee you will feel so much better for it in the long run. And then it will also just help every other aspect. And pillar 4, recovery. You need to map your recovery out. Growth happens as a byproduct of recovering, not from going to the gym. So you can't just go and flog yourself in the fucking gym, expect to grow. Going to the gym sets off a cascade effect. Recovering and resting is where we actually grow. Allowing your body the time it needs to heal, recover, etc., is just as, if not more crucial than pretty much most of the other steps. And they all work hand in hand together. So we know that works synergistically. We know that they help each other out. We need to remember that in a fat loss phase, we're already stressed. If we then go and add a fuck ton of training, if we then go and add a fuck ton of steps, cardio, reduce our calories to the bottom of the floor, we're going to fucking hit a wall very, very, very quickly. And then all of a sudden people are going to be like, I can't lose weight, it's too hard. And they binge, and then they go back to square one. And it becomes this repetitive cycle of the same shit over and over. Rather than creating a really balanced, sustainable, and long-term approach to fat loss, they try and go balls to the wall from the get-go and end up fucking themselves up. Remember that, as with anything, consistency matters more than just about everything else we do in our life. If you are consistently good and sticking to your diet and training consistently and pushing hard and getting your sleep in and doing your stress mitigation strategies and all the rest of it, you will achieve the results you desire. But if you only can go hard for 1 to 2 weeks and then you fall off and then you're on and then you're off and then you're on and then all of these things keep happening, you're never going to achieve the results you desire. Sorry to say it. Sorry to be the bearer of bad news. But the other ways in which we can look at recovery, sleeping 7 to 9 hours per night. Not just that, but trying to keep a very consistent sleep-wake time. So for me, I will wake up at 4:30, somewhere between 4:10 and 4:20, actually, my alarm changes. And I will go to bed between 8:30 and 9 o'clock. So I'm getting that 7.5 to 8 hours of sleep every single night. The goal should always be to focus on increasing our REM and non-REM sleep, i.e. our dream state and our deep sleep. These two work cohesively together to help our bodies recover. Our non-REM, so our deep sleep, is where our body recovers, and our REM, or our rapid eye movement, or our dream state sleep, is where our mind recovers. We need both of them to work synergistically together to get a really balanced approach. So other aspects is, active recovery, walking, sauna, like walking for general daily movement, sauna, stretching, mobility, hot and cold baths, all the rest of it. They do have their time and place. If you're not ticking all of the other boxes first, focus on that. Then you can add these in as the little secret sauce on top, if that's what you want to call it. And tracking data, resting heart rate variability, stress scores, all the rest of it. This allows you to also understand your state of readiness, understand when it's time for a deload, understand when it might be time for a diet break. I haven't mentioned diet breaks in this because there's a lot of different variables that come into play when we look at diet breaks, but there is information that we can discuss about them. And at the end of the day, it's all just about trying to make something sustainable for you. And I've said it again, sustainability is key. It's not, you shouldn't go and put yourself in a 20, 30, 40% deficit straight off the bat. Start 5%, push it to 10, go up by 5% again. Now all of a sudden you're segmentally decreasing fat at a sustainable rate. You're able to maintain performance as best as possible. You're able to maintain mental cohesion as best as possible, and you're not going to run yourself into the fucking ground. That's basically it. There's been a lot of actionable steps in this that I hope people take value from. If you've taken value from this, please share it with somebody that you think could benefit from it. Share it on your Instagram story. Just get it out for me. Help me to get it out there, to get this podcast out more. I'm trying to drive a little bit more of a quote unquote following towards the page. I've started trying to increase things across posting on my Instagram, YouTube, shorts, etc. Trying to really drive a wider audience, because I know that already there's been so much impact had from people tuning into this podcast. And I know that there's a fuck ton of value that other people can take from it. So genuinely, a lot of people are really, really quick to share some celebrity's fucking latest scandal or their podcast or something they've put out, or a brand that they don't even fucking know existed, that they've gone and bought $1,000 worth of their product and they posted it on their story like they're best friends with the owner. It's in any form of business, support your friends, support those around you, support small business. And just, yeah, it helps. Honestly, it really does help more than you would know. I appreciate every single person who does message me, who does share this around. The rest of it, like, at the end of the day, I'm only one person. I can only do so much. But I really appreciate anybody who does want to help me. And I really fucking enjoy getting to jump on here every week and talk and try and offer value to those around me. So beyond that, I'm going to throw in a fucking CTA, call to action. If you are ready to take the guesswork out and lose weight the right way, I have built the exact system that I use in my coaching framework. This is it. This is how we create sustainable fat loss. This is how you achieve the results that you desire. Book a free call. Send me a message, book in a call. Let's have a chat. I will not promise that you will lose 15 kilos in 12 weeks. However, I will promise you that if you follow the plan, if you stick to it, if you're adherent, if you're accountable to yourself and to me, you will lose weight. Beyond that, once again, thank you very much for tuning in. I appreciate each and every one of you. I hope you have a fucking fantastic week, and I'll speak to you again soon.